Today is the Sunday of St. Gregory Palamas, who is best remembered for his theological differentiation between the divine essence and the divine energies of God, as well as for his defense of a method of prayer called hesychism, which literally means stillness or quietude, and which is a type of contemplative prayer whereby the practitioner's physicality is involved as she engages in a form of meditation in which bodily postures, along with breathing techniques and mental exercises, are performed. While seemingly unrelated, both of these aspects of Palamas's contribution to orthodoxy highlight the importance of the body and of our physicality in leading a spiritual life. Too often we tend to think of the spiritual life as somehow requiring us to denigrate the life of the body, or spirituality as somehow divorced from our social and moral lives. Yet the practice of the virtues is part and parcel of the spiritual path. As Palamas teaches, love for God is begotten from the virtues. And reflecting upon Psalm 11:5, which states, "He who loves injustice hates his own soul," Palamas says, "He who ever partakes of evil of any sort may not so much as draw near to God." Elsewhere, St. Palamas reminds us that we must cut off the inner flow of evil thoughts by means of prayer and humility. As our world sadly faces a great many moral difficulties, including war, genocide, authoritarianism, and ecological destruction, amongst many others, and as we enter into the second Sunday of Lent, a time of fasting and prayer in preparation for the resurrectional Paschal event that is Easter, I find it apropos to reflect upon some of Palamas's teachings and would like to discuss the ways in which his theology, as well as his understandings of contemplative prayer, speak to our moral lives. In our Orthodox tradition, we believe that our iconic image of God is perpetually within us and is something that we can never lose, regardless of how many times we sin. But that our likeness to God is something different, because it is something that we must strive for through the cultivation of a virtuous lifestyle. Gregory Palamas teaches us that our likeness to God requires our cooperation, because the virtues are similitudes of God, and that to participate in them puts us in a fit state to receive the deity, in his words. But what does this mean? It means that cultivating virtues such as justice, temperance, prudence, fortitude, humility, and compassion are what make us more godlike, and that to live virtuously is to practice a form of ethical and spiritual exercise, or ascesis, that deepens our relationship with God and which helps prepare us for the ultimate goal of Orthodox Christian life, namely theosis, or union with the divine. Yet, where then does contemplative prayer, the notion of the body, fit into this picture? Palamas says that if one desires to combat sin and acquire virtue, one must force the mind or intellect to return within the body, because to make the mind go out of the body itself is the root and source of all heresies. These are very strong words coming from St. Palamas's mouth. But what they highlight is the fact that when we denigrate our physical body and think of spirituality as somehow being disembodied or involving hatred of our bodies, or fail to be attentive to the physical plight and suffering of other humans or even other physical creatures, we deny the reality of the divine incarnation, which itself points to the very embodiment of God. This is precisely why heart-centered meditative breathing techniques and bodily postures are so crucial to the hesychist method of prayer, because they make us aware of the significance of our embodied nature and the physical world. And why Palamas's defense of the phenomenon that through such a physically engaged method of prayer, one is capable of preparing oneself to receive the blessing of theosis, because it helps us to cultivate virtue, which is like polishing the icon of the divine image residing within us. This is why Palamas quotes St. John Climacus, who says, "A hesychist is one who tries to enshrine what is bodiless within the body." And Palamas goes on to ask, if the hesychist does not enclose his intellect within his body, how then can he possess within himself the one who is invested with the body and who as its natural form penetrates all of material existence? According to Palamas' theology, although we are cognitively close to the divine essence, and as such may never know nor attain union with it, the divine energies, despite being uncreated, penetrate the entirety of creation and therefore permeate the whole cosmos, including every inch of our very own physical bodies. And this is precisely why hesychism was even a controversy in the first place, because it involves meditative stillness that entails utilizing bodily postures and deep breathing techniques in an integration of the physiological and psycho-spiritual aspects of who we are. Hesychism involves achieving a state of psycho-spiritual watchfulness, wakefulness, or mindfulness called nipsis that is foundational for the cultivation of arete, or virtue. Within the writings of many of the hesychists, nipsis is described as vigilantly guarding one's heart and mind from evil or vicious thoughts, such as anger, jealousy, rage, gluttony, greed, and egoism. It is the praxis of nipsis that enables one to transform these pathological thoughts, or pathi, into more reasonable desires and place them in the service of attaining the higher order desire for the good and preparing ourselves to receive the divine energies. By centering one's attention upon one's heart, the practitioner places one's mental energies in the core of the body and strives to achieve both a physical alteration as well as a psycho-spiritual transformation. Orthodox monastics often speak of the importance of ceaseless prayer, so that for the laity, we can come to think of engaging in continual ησυχία, or meditative stillness, as consisting of the habituation of unremitting nipsis, or being constantly and vigilantly attentive to the moment, as a means of overcoming the strength of the ego, the root cause of egoism and selfishness, which in turn are the primary sources of amartia, or sin, which makes us miss the mark of our goals of being good, attaining wisdom, and drawing closer to God. Engaging in hesychism while alone can help us practice perpetual nipsis, which in a social context entails possessing an attentive watchfulness over our vicious impulses and desires as we perform our daily routines, and a constant compassionate mindfulness of the plight and suffering of others, both near and far, and both human and non, and a ceaseless remembrance that the life of virtue is not about performing actions as signals of our righteousness to others, but that it begins within our own minds and hearts, and yes, our bodies. Thank you.